Hey everyone, Nicky Skevich here with Daily Fantasy Winners. Got the Arnold Palmer Invitational come up here this week for this episode of Tee to Green. And so this is, Arnold Palmer's invite. This is at Bay Hill in Orlando, Florida, where it's been, I think, ever since the tournament started. It's been there for a long time. And so this is a pretty good field again here this week. There just doesn't seem to be a week off where it's a bad field or even just like a mediocre field. It's another strong week this week. Top golfers: Jason Day, Justin Rose, Rory McIlroy, Rickie Fowler, and Tiger Woods playing obviously some pretty good golf here as of late. And so we'll get into some of these top golfers and some strategy here. And just real quick on the Arnold Palmer invite. This is a slightly smaller field. It's only about 120 players, not the full 140, 150. Just so it is a slight easier cut to make here for the guys. It's still going to be top 70 plus ties. So a little bit easier to get 6 of 6 through on DraftKings or FanDuel. And then other than that, this course is pretty much average in terms of difficulty, average in terms of the amount of pars made, birdies, bogeys, all that. Slightly higher on the eagle side. There's a par 5 there on the back that's a pretty easy eagle hole for most of the guys. And so as far as statistical correlations, definitely a strokes gained tee to green course. Off the tee and approaching the green both show up here decently, and accuracy does not matter here at all. Usually Florida courses, some accuracy does matter at least a little bit, but for this is of all the Florida tournaments, this is the one where accuracy does not matter really very much at all. And so don't really need to focus on that. Driving distance pops up here a little bit. That's probably because the accuracy doesn't pop up here as much, and there's not as much trouble off the tee. And so anyways, that's why that is. Length's not super important. It helps you a little bit. It's just not a big thing. But mainly it's just strokes gained off the tee and approaching the green will be the primary things that will show up here. Not too surprising here. Usually does that every year. Unless your name's Matt Every. He won here back-to-back years, and he wasn't very good at strokes gained off the tee or approaching the green in those years. But anyone, those years was like 2013 and 14, I think, or maybe it was 14 and 15, I forget. But that was kind of funny. But other than that, anyway, so yeah, those are the things you're looking for. And so let's just get on into this. But before I do get into the top golfers, I'm just going to say, if you just want to know what strategy I would recommend here out of the gate, I definitely recommend going with the balanced salary method this week. And I would actually start building your lineup with some of the cheaper guys. But by cheaper guys, you still start with the most expensive as far as where you're going to start at the top. But I would just say, I think Hideki and Fleetwood and Fowler are all pretty good options, and I'll dive into Rickie and stuff like that in a little bit. But I just wanted to say, right out of the gate here, I'm probably not gonna. I'll talk a little bit about the guys 10K and above here, but other than Fowler here, I think I'm actually gonna. I like the 9K range a lot here in the 8K range, and I think it's a good week to go balanced salary method here this week. And so just wanted to get that out of the way as far as whether it's cash or GPPs. Obviously you're making several GPPs, then it changes a little bit. But anyways, we'll just get into the top guys here. I'll start off with Jason Day here. $11,800. I'm obviously usually somebody that's pro Jason Day, definitely more than the average person out there. And he's got pretty good recent form right now. He has recently finished tied for second at Pebble, and then he won the Farmers Insurance Open, tied for 11 in his couple fall events before that. The problem with Jason Day right now I don't like is that he is 185th in strokes gained approaching the green. That's always a big red flag to me. Yes, it is a very small sample size. There's no doubt about it. But when we're taking a look at a field that's got the names of, Justin Rose, Rory McIlroy, Rickie Fowler, even Tiger at this point, I guess, Hideki, Fleetwood, they're all cheaper. Jason Day's the most expensive, and his strokes gained approaching the green really is that bad. And he is number 1 in strokes gained putting. Now, Jason Day, I've said this time and time again, Jason Day is one of the best putters on tour. There's no doubt about that. But he should not be gaining. I'll just pull up Jason Day here on the putting regression tool method here to show you. Jason Day, he is gaining 1.861 strokes so far in putting. That is by no means anywhere close to sustainable. And so so obviously his putter is running incredibly hot to make up for what the irons have done to him so far in the approaches. And so in any case, that's something I would like to see change before I would want to pay $11,800 for him to roster at the top of the lineup. The one positive thing I will say about Jason Day though here is he probably will not be owned that much just because of this price. I know his recent form is good, so there will be some people that play him, don't get me wrong, but just because of the other top names that are kind of in this field, and it's a pretty deep field here, I don't think his ownership will be too bad. So, if you're making several GPP lineups, I think he's worth a shot, though, because he is Jason Day, and he's one of the best players in the world. But Certainly not be a cash play, in my opinion, or a hardcore or a core GPP play, if you will. Moving on to Justin Rose. So pretty much a similar story here for Justin Rose, actually. 156 in strokes gained approaching the green. And if I pull up Justin Rose on the putting regression tool method, Justin Rose he's gaining 0.764 strokes on the field. And so Justin Rose actually, he is not usually one of the best putters on tour. As you can see over the years here, over the last handful of years, he has been pretty much an average putter, and that's probably accurate for him. Definitely, Rose has been he's been a very strong tee to green player, undoubtedly historically, but the putting has usually been average, and so that's why we're expecting some pretty good regression out of him, and I think that's actually pretty accurate. Again, small sample here. We're dealing with some of these guys here in the early going. We really won't get a better sample on some of these statistics probably until we get to April or May, and moving on to the summer. But it's still enough of a sample to see some things as far as okay, what here seems to be actually working and what here seems to be doesn't. We're getting some early signs. Justin Rose's recent form: T5 at the Valspar, T37 in Mexico, T8 at the Farmers, and then T22 over at Abu Dhabi in the European Tour back in January. And so, his recent form's okay, it's fine. But the fact that the putter's hot again, like today, and that the strokes gained approaching the green is not there right now. I don't like that for Justin Rose. And so I kind of the same boat for Rose. I don't know how the ownership will work out between him and Day. My guess is it'll be relatively similar. If I had to guess, it won't be too much different. I'm kind of lean Jason Day is going to be a little bit higher on ownership just because it's only a $300 difference, and Day's recent performs a little better probably, I would guess. And Jason Day actually has a decent course history here, if I'm not mistaken. He won here recently. He's played here 7 times. He's only made the cut 5 times, but one of those was a withdrawal and back in 09, and he missed the cut in 08. But his last few times he's played here, T23, he won in 2016, like I said, and then T17 before that. So it's okay, or decent recent form, I guess, or course history. Justin Rose actually has decent course history too. T13, T9, missed cut, but then second, T15, T3. So they both actually have average to decent course history here. As far as how good of players they are. So I don't know, their ownership will probably about the same. It won't be that high, maybe 10%, maybe it'll be a little higher than that, and which isn't bad for the most expensive guys. Anyways, that's probably the way I would look at it with them. You can definitely go with it if you're doing several GPPs, but it would not be a core GPP play or a cash play, in my opinion. Rory McIlroy, man, Rory is somebody I really want to recommend because I cannot believe how low Rory's ownership is. Just not even necessarily in the the expert. Well, not say the experts necessarily, but just the guys that play that are more pros or just play more on a regular basis and play higher stakes. They're not into him. The casual players aren't into him, and that's just really where everybody's anti-Rory so quickly. But unfortunately, when you look at the statistics of Rory, there's unfortunately good reason for it. He's 14th off the tee, which is absolutely great. It's 151st in approaching the green. He's 119th around the green and 124th putting. And Rory is usually kind of like an average putter, generally speaking, and he was stronger early on in his career, but obviously over the last few years he hasn't been as good. If we do take a look at Rory here on the strokes gain tool, the putting regression tool metric, you see he's been a slightly below average putter here over the last couple of years. We have no data for him in 2015. I don't know if that's average or if he didn't play enough PGA Tour tournaments for 2015. That might have been the year he was injured. Actually, I can't quite remember off the top of my head. But then 2014, plus 0.27, and that's the year he won the PGA Championship, and I believe the Open Championship as well. I think they won both those majors that are closed out 2014. You can see, generally speaking, that Rory is expected to be about an average putter, and he's putting slightly below average, which is really actually in line with at least the last 2 years. So not really into Rory this week, unfortunately, despite that he's probably going to be 10% owned at most. It's just, I would just say you can definitely, again, Rory, any of these guys I'm talking about, whether it's Day or Rose, and even a guy like Rory who seems to be particularly struggling in a lot of his areas. Rory is that talented, though. We've seen it from him before. Again, if you're making a ton of GPP lineups, I definitely would recommend throwing him in just a couple times because it won't be that hard to over-own him versus the field. But other than that, again, I would not have him be a core play or a cash play by any means. Definitely not cash play. And so Rory does have good course history here for what it's worth. I will just point it out. He's played here 3 times, and those are each of the last 3 years with T4, T27, and T11. So pretty solid here for Rory. I mean, he hasn't won, or he hasn't had hasn't been like the best course history, but that's still pretty solid, obviously. Moving on to Rickie Fowler. So Rickie's kind of interesting. So as I was saying, Rickie's the one person that we probably nailed home the best as far as the putting regression tool metric. Because if you remember, Rickie was running super hot in the beginning of the year, and everybody was playing him, and he's a popular player, just generally speaking. But now if you look at Rickie Fowler, he is a positive plus 0.520 in terms of what we expect for the putting regression. And because if you look at 2018 to the left-hand side, he is putting this year at a minus 0.170. So his putting has seriously dropped off, and that has definitely the primary reason why he has missed 2 of his last 4 cuts. He missed at the Honda, he missed at the Farmers, and he finished T37 at Mexico, which is middle of the pack because, again, that's a condensed field, and T11 at the Waste Management, and that's a tournament he usually does well at. And so for Rickie, just because he is I like that he's supposed to be, he'll probably now, we had the regression go from running too hot now to way too cold, and now we're probably going to get somewhere in the middle. So now I actually probably am on Rickie Fowler here this week as my favorite guy, at least for 10K and above. Somebody I would certainly include, whether it's cash or you can be a core GPP option. I think that's all good. As far as Rickie Fowler goes in terms of the statistics for the strokes gained stuff, right now he is sitting at 52nd off the tee, 30th and approaching the green. Those actually, at least the approaching the green, bounced back a little bit, which is what I liked. It actually bounced back at his last couple of tournaments. And then he's 38th around the green. Rickie's usually got a really good short game. 38th is actually, that's fine for whatever that his number, his exact metric is, but 38th ranking is fine. And then the strokes gained putting ranking is 139. So yeah, this is kind of a classic spot where we would recommend playing Rickie Fowler here. And so he is one of the guys that does tend to be better on Florida style golf courses. Probably maybe the West Coast swing. Rickie lives in Florida, and he plays a lot of Florida golf, and so there could be something there obviously with that as well. And so anyway, so Fowler is somebody I like. Tiger Woods, obviously. Let's address the elephant in the room here a little bit. Tiger obviously nearly won the Valspar last week. He also played pretty darn well at the Honda as well. So his last 2 performances here in the Florida swing are both a tie for second at the Valspar and a 12th place at the Honda. Missed the cut at the Genesis and T23 at the Farmers Insurance Open. Before I dive into Tiger here, I do want to just show you, Max just posted an article here on the website at DailyFantasyWinners.com, and it's on Tiger Woods, and he analyzes it from a statistics standpoint and basically, trying to address the question, is Tiger Woods back? A very popular question right now. And he dives into it from an analytical standpoint, just from like the strokes gained and predictions and stuff like that. He talks about the aging curve for the average PGA Tour golfer, and he's talking about regression to the mean and things of that nature, but it's really well done. I would highly recommend checking it out to try and get like a good estimation as far as what we should expect from Tiger. And I'll leave that up to you, to read it obviously and dive into it. But I agree with pretty much everything that is in there. At the end of the day, he's based, Max, I'll just, you should dive into why he's saying these certain things, but he basically says we should expect him to be about a top 40 golfer. And I think that's about right. Because what happens, and obviously he's a very tough player to predict right now, because we're talking about one of the greatest, if not the greatest of all time. And we're also talking about somebody who's gone through significant injuries and numerous operations on his knee and back surgeries and all this type of stuff. And it's hard to know exactly what to expect from somebody who has so much talent, yet has so much carnage over the last handful of years, and what to expect. So, and honestly, so if you've kind of followed me on Twitter on this and kind of try to get a sense of where my feelings are on Tiger here, through the first 2 weeks, as far as the Genesis went and the Farmers Insurance Open, his first 2 tournaments of the year, I thought his short game was bailing him out for the most part. His strokes gained around the green and strokes gained putting were really darn good. His approach game was mediocre at best and honestly kind of poor, and his strokes gained off the tee was all over the place. It was really bad. And so I kind of thought, okay, this is Tiger slapping it around and finding a way to score, because he can scramble. But obviously, the swing had not looked. But at the same time, I also looked at and said, the swing doesn't look manufactured. It looks free. It looks good, and it's fine. And then when we got to the Florida swing, it even looked more loose and more fresh and even more Tiger-like, if you will, looking, several years younger. But was really impressive, obviously, is the stroke gained approach in the green. It has been on fire here the last couple of weeks. And actually, if I just combine all the weeks Tiger's played so far here this year, because Tiger now actually qualifies for the strokes gained statistics in terms of the rankings. Tiger Woods, 104th off the tee. He is 19th approaching the green, 21st around the green, and 23rd putting. So Tiger's strokes gained approaching the green has been very sharp the last couple of tournaments. Wasn't quite so sharp on Sundays around at the Valspar, unfortunately. Otherwise, he probably would have won. But obviously, it's very good, and that's extremely impressive. I mean, this is 6 months ago. He was hitting 60-yard shots, and he was having trouble getting out of golf carts and stuff, and riding around the President's Cup and everything. And so that's just it's insane to think that somebody could be 6 months removed from that and be able to do what he's doing right now in terms of the iron shots and the distance control and the flexibility that he has. That's the part that's the most shocking to me. Coming into this year, my general expectation of Tiger was I think he could probably compete again, be competitive at some point again here this year. It'll probably have to have really sharp short game, and then he'll probably still he'll be doctored down a little bit as far as the tee to green game a little bit. But at least be competitive, I think, maybe at some point, and we'll probably see that maybe more later in the summer, as we lead into the Ryder Cup, and maybe they'll be try and make a push to be a captain's pick or something at the last second. I did not see I just saw on the PGA Tour on their Twitter just during the tournament that one of his drives had the fastest club head speed of all swings this year that were measured. That's insane. No one was predicting that, I don't think, and I certainly wasn't predicting that. And so it's absolutely shocking that he is just bombing it the way he is, and his approach game is that dialed in on this short of time. So clearly his talent is through the roof. There's absolutely no doubt about it. But the way Max kind of approaches that article is it's a good thing as far as okay, let's break this down statistically. What can we expect from him, and where should he be in terms of a top, what golfer? And Max came up with about top 40. And I think that's about right. I would say I may be a little more open to being more top 30, top 20 potentially, just because he is Tiger Woods. But at the same time, I completely agree that the hype is way over the top right now versus what we should realistically expect right now. Because right now, as you can see on the odds per dollar page, Tiger Woods, his odds are insane. He's a 15.75 here at 10K and 13.24. Translation here. Tiger Woods is 5.5 or 6 to 1 to win Arnold Palmer at the sports books, and then Jason Day is 12 to 1. Justin Rose is 14 to 1. That's preposterous. That's the horrible odds. If you're betting that, you're just a crazy Tiger fan. You just want to root for him and just have money on it. That's why you're doing it. But they're terrible odds. Would not recommend making that bet. And so. For right now, and I will say, though, that I do think Tiger's short game with the scrambling and the putting is bailing him out a little bit. Not a lot, but I think it's bailing him out a little bit. That, yes, Tiger is a positive putter. Yes, he's a good short game player in terms of around the green. But it is running particularly hot, and it's just such a small sample that I wouldn't get too carried away on it. And so I think you just have realistic expectations for Tiger. But at the same time, it's very fine to be open to, he's a top 20, 30, 40, 50 player, whatever you want to call it, and he has a chance making the Ryder Cup team, and he could be in contention at one, maybe two of the majors. Those are possible things, but let's just don't go overboard and say oh, he's better than Dustin Johnson, Jordan Spieth, and Justin Thomas. I would definitely not go there. That's a little far to me. So for Tiger's price at 10K, that's actually somewhat of a reasonable price. I think I probably have him realistically, maybe I have him more down in low 9K if I'm being honest. But, having him up at 10K, it's the recent form, it's Tiger, that's fine. But the odds here are super, super inflated. So I would kind of just ignore all that. And as far as, also, I'll just point this out, our strokes gained putting regression tool model for Tiger, obviously we have no strokes gained statistics that could be measured for Tiger over the last few years because of all the injuries, and he wouldn't have played enough events to qualify, and even in the years where he started up to try and play, because this only goes back to 2014. You have to go back to 2013 to find a realistic version of Tiger. So Tiger, we have a minus 0.52, but that's because he's at a 0.541 so far. Tiger is an above average putter, so, and Max kind of addresses this a little bit, and we expect Tiger to be a better than average putter, obviously. So 0.541, that's a little hot. He's probably going to regress here a little bit. So this minus 0.52 over here, it's probably more like a minus 0.2, 3 at the most or something like that. Like that's probably where we'd have Tiger more realistically here. But we're just trying to keep the model consistent and let you guys, use your own knowledge and research here a little bit too at the same time and everything. So anyways, all this adding up. So by the way, so what can we expect for Tiger Woods ownership? Yeah, that's going to be fascinating. It's going to be high, I think. I don't think it's going to be super high. And what I mean by that is it will be above 20% just because it's a pretty affordable price. There are Tiger fans out there and everything, and they don't want to miss out on this. And it's the Arnold Palmer Invitational, where Tiger has won here like a bajillion times. He's won here. I don't remember how many times it is. He's won. I'll tell you this though. He's won 4 of the last 5 times he's played here, and the one time he did was the T24, whatever. And he's made the cut 16 of 17 times. Of those 16 times, he made the cut 9 or top 10s. Like that's insane. And he's won here like I think it's like 6 or 7 times. I forget the exact number. So with this, as far as Tiger, if you want to include him in GPPs, that's fine. I wouldn't make him a core play. I really wouldn't, just because the ownership for him will be really high. And I also could just see Tiger, he just has an off week because this is still a little bit of a process for him. And, so it's just one of those things where I don't think it's wise to pay up a bunch for him, despite that he's got the course history, despite this is looking hot for a little bit. I would probably be like a little bit more to the regression to the mean side of him right now, just because, the ownership will be pretty high. It'll be above 20%. I don't think it's going to be like 40 or something like that, but 20 to 30 is, I think, is an expectation here for Tiger, given the buzz and everything. And that's just a little too high for my liking for all the other quality players that you can get at lower ownership and everything like that. So that's kind of my opinion on Tiger right now. I think it's tough to play him when his ownership will be this high right now. But we'll see. We'll track it, and obviously he's a very tough player to predict. That's just my opinion as far as what I would do here for this week. And so, and then like I said, also just as before we wrap up here, I mentioned that I do like a balanced salary method this week. And Fowler would be like the one guy I think you can play above 10K that I think is the best option here. And as far as the guys in like the 9K range, Hideki is running hot with a putter, but all the other parts of his game are running well too. So I actually am fine with Hideki despite being a minus 0.46 on here, and he's a positive 0.354 with the putter. All his other strokes gain statistics, especially off the tee and approaching green, like they're fine right now. And I think Hideki's fine. I think that's a really darn good price for him at 9,700. It may not even get the highest ownership, believe it or not, just because a lot of people are going to play Tiger, and I do think a good amount of people will probably end up playing Fleetwood, who's just cheaper than him. And I do like Tommy Fleetwood. I've been pro Fleetwood, obviously, all day or every tournament he's been playing in this year, and I'm going to continue to do that as long as his ownership doesn't get like super duper high, like above as long as it gets like 35-40%, I think that's fine. Fleetwood, in my opinion, is legitimately like a top 5-10 golfer, or I don't know, top 5, probably top 10 at least, and I might even go as far as top 5, like if he keeps this up. I really like Fleetwood a lot, and so I have no problem with that price at 9,500 and everything. So. And then I'll touch on some other guys in the forum as far as like a few other guys I'd like. I may not have as long of a list this week because I just, unfortunately, with March Madness coming up this week, I have that March Madness like bracket preview breakdown thing, or like the advice for strategy and tips and all that you should be seeing here. Or I don't know which video is coming out first because I just did it last night. So, there's a lot of stuff coming up with that, and then I will get back to doing more of a longer list and a little bit more in depth here in the weeks to come. But I'll throw a few names out there for you in the forum here this week. And so, all right, we're done here. Thanks for watching as usual. I'm at Nicky Skevich on Twitter. Daily Fantasy Winners is on Twitter at DFantasyWinners. And then definitely please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you, and good luck.